Hi, jewells68 here for Talk to Me Tuesday on Tuesday, March 7th. I have a couple of things to show you and I'm very excited. So you'll see behind me there's a wine-themed quilt hanging on the wall, but it's very different from the one I showed you last week. Here is the original panel from this, what the hell was that thing called? I don't know. Anyway, that pattern that I used, I don't even remember what it is. So it's been trimmed down. I made it smaller. Here's the two original border strips. One was here and one was here. I cut one of them down from 5 to 4 squares so that I could put them interspersed here and here. The rest of this fabric all came from my stash. Now this was the original border. The grapevines were the original border. There's no top and bottom border now, and that's because by the time I got all this put together, I really didn't want to cut this down any more than I already had. I cut it down quite a bit already, and it made it so tall that I really felt like a top border was just going to make it too much. So it'll be a nice lap quilt, I think. It looks like I need to trim a few threads here and there. But the rest of this, quite a bit of it actually came from Jennifer. At some point, I think I've had it for quite some time in my stash. She sent me a bundle of wine-themed fabric. And I think the only thing that's not really wine-themed is the artichokes and Kalamata olives that are in these two prints. And that's okay because it's, you know, this is a very Mediterranean looking fabric. And so I think it just sort of pulls all the Mediterranean theme together. This purple came from my stash. And I had enough in it to where I had a little bit left over, but it was just a really good amount of fabric to be able to do this border. I was trying to make it wider to be a little better ratio with the tall length. So it's about, I'm going to say like 52 by 67, I think, by the time it'll be finished. It'll get trimmed down a little bit. Yeah, so, and then of course this green, I switched the green. So I took the other green that was in the original quilt top, and I just put it in my green scraps, and I replaced it with this because I had a lot more of this, and I knew I was going to need, and I felt like it went with it well enough. It sort of tied both collections of wine-themed fabric together, and then I had enough to be able to do side borders. Yeah, and the funny thing is that when I pieced one of these together, just playing around, I had a few of these remnants that had just enough to do a 9-inch square. And so I did an entire row of 9-inch squares, and I just randomly picked 3 inches here to try. And when I pieced it all together, it exactly matched the length of these. I laughed. It was pretty hilarious. So clearly this was meant to be. This quilt went from a quilt that I couldn't stand, and that's why it's been sitting around for 5 years, to one that I kind of want to keep now. And this was actually intended to be a gift for someone. And I think that's good. I think that means the fact that I kind of want to keep it means it'll be a good gift. So I think probably the purple is what finally pulled me in, adding this strip of purple. Purple is my favorite color. I feel like it really makes the grapes pop that are in various places by having this over here, and it makes them pop in the border, having it next to the border. So yeah, this went from a I hate this quilt to a I love this quilt, and I'm really excited. And it happened all in a week. Isn't that great? Last Wednesday I came home from work after 10 hours straight, no lunch break. I mean, I ate at my desk, but I didn't get to leave. I just sat at my desk for 10 hours. And I just took that original, I came back here and I looked at that original quilt top on the wall, and I just pulled it down and I took the whole thing apart, except for these 2 strips. Yeah, so it was a little cathartic. I think it made me feel better. I was feeling kind of destructive. And I figured this is something that won't hurt anybody, so yay. And then the other thing I have to show you is I finally broke down and gave it a go with quilting on the new machine, which I hadn't done yet. And what started this was last Saturday, I finished piecing this top, and then I thought, all right, now what am I going to do? And I thought, oh crap, next Saturday is Linus, and I don't have anything ready to turn in. And I've only turned in one thing so far this year. So if I don't turn anything in this week, I'll be two blankets behind for my goal for the year. So I was like, I really would like to get one thing done. And I have a couple of fleece blankets that I found when I was cleaning out my closet a couple of weeks ago. And they were in a space bag. Didn't pull them out all winter. Clearly, I don't need them. One is a solid navy. The other is sort of a tie-dye looking greenish blue. And so I thought, oh, I could put those together and maybe try some of the decorative stitches. But then I thought, you know, I have 3 tops hanging over here for Project Linus that are pieced and ready to baste and quilt. I'm just going to give that a go. So, you guys may remember the candy quilt, mixed reviews on the candy quilt. Honestly, I didn't really care for it. I thought the fabrics were cute by themselves, and then when I put them together, I did put some solids in there to break it up, but oh my god, the crazy colors. I dug around in my fabric, and I actually found a piece of fabric that I grabbed at the Project Linus Social a couple of years ago. We shop. They have like a little garage sale. We don't pay anything. It's all donated stuff. We just go in and it's stuff they're trying to get rid of. So there's, you know, random fabrics. And I found this fabric. And so it was a little bit smaller than what I needed for the back of this quilt. But I decided it's small. This is going to be a good practice project on the new machine. I did make a practice sandwich. And after I did it, it was so, sorry, stomach's growling. It was so easy that I was like, well, hell, I'm just going to dive in with this quilt, and if I screw it up, you know, I don't really care because I didn't really like it that much anyway. But now I love it. I chose orange thread and orange binding because I have so much orange left from making the safety strips for my Ghostbuster outfit. So I chose orange binding, a solid orange, because this quilt is so busy. With so many colors. I thought I'm just going to do a solid color binding, which is something I don't know if I've ever done. I used this bit, and I just cut the top down to where it would work. So I don't have any photos of this. I'll throw those in later. But it's been so flippin' windy, I can't go outside to take pictures. Here is the back, and you can really, because of the orange thread in the top and the bottom, you can really see the quilting, and I just went to town. I was basically experimenting on this. I was just doing some meander, then I did some spirals. I started out with a big spiral in the center. I did things that were kind of look like waves. I did pointy spirals. I don't know, I did all kinds of crazy stuff because I was just having fun. And I have to tell you, I quilted, the actual quilting on this quilt, I probably finished in 45 minutes total. I had to stop in the middle to run to the store, or we had an errand we were going to run. So I stopped right in the middle. But, oh my god. Basically, I basted this. I used some leftover Hobbs fusible batting that I used originally on my brother's quilt this time last year. And, I had 2 pieces that were just wide enough that I overlapped them right in the center by about between 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And when I fused the whole thing together, I fused really good down the middle. And I knew that I was going to quilt it, you know, all over the place. So that batting, you have to quilt at least no more than 4 inches apart. Well, there ain't nothing that big here. So, I'm really excited. So Sunday I basted it, quilted it, trimmed it, bound it, labeled it, and then yesterday I washed it. So it's already got the Project Linus label on it. The only thing left is to measure it and pin a little piece of paper on there with the dimensions, because that makes it really easy when we're going through and showing off quilts on Saturday. Makes it really easy for them to place it in the right stack, the ladies that sort everything. They'll place it in the right stack, and they'll already have it ready to bag up and take for delivery. So, yeah, those are the two things I have done. I'm looking at the clock because I'm running out of time, and I want to get this at least starting to process before I leave for work. I am really encouraged. The only problem I had, it was so easy to quilt this thing. Oh my God. I texted Jennifer and I said, why did I wait so long to buy a computerized machine? So, I love, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, I love my workhorse, you know, 40, 50, 60-year-old machines. I will keep probably 2 of them as backups, and in case I want to gift one to somebody. But I'm really glad I bought this machine because, wow, I can't believe it. What I ended up doing was unplugging the foot pedal and using the start-stop button since I was doing free motion. And it made it so much easier to really get the speed down to where I wasn't, and it regulates the stitches. So, you know, at no point were the stitches so long when I kind of moved a little too fast or slow. At no point were the stitches too long to where I felt like I had to sew over them. I mean, I did sew over them in some places, but that was just because I was going so fast. I put it up to the highest speed there is, and I unplugged the foot pedal, and I used the start-stop button, and I just went to town. And then as soon as I got to where I felt like I needed to move, I'd stop it, and then I, you know, readjust, and then I'd press the start-stop button. That thing has changed my life, seriously, especially on quilts this size. It'll be great for quilt as you go, because I can really envision doing some detailed quilting on like blocks and then sewing them together. So I'm excited to try that this year. And then the other thing, the needle up down button, where you can program it to always end with the needle down. I combined that with the start stop, and that made it so freaking easy. Wow, I just can't get over it. So that's all I have to show you. I think that's pretty good for a week, considering how many hours overtime I've been working. And I look forward to watching your videos, and I'll see you next week. Bye!